Gotcha folks, it's the big dog here again. It's Wales Comic Con time again. So I've only attended on the one day this year. I've gone for the Sunday, so it should have been a fair bit quieter than it was yesterday. I've been paying quite some attention to the reviews and the people that were there on the Saturday for this event, and it seems like again that the weather has played quite a serious part. But what folk don't seem to be realising is that, look, it's springtime, the weather's going to be changeable, and this is in Wrexham, it's in Wales, it's not in Florida. You know, the weather's going to be changeable. Folk have got to realise that it's not going to be perfect there all the time, and they need to dress for the occasion. Now, if you're dressed in the skimpiest of Sailor Moon outfits, well, you're going to get wet and you're going to get cold while you're queuing up. This is one of those things, you're going to have to just either deal with it or dress more appropriately for the occasion. This is the perils that you take when you dress in cosplay. However, that said, last year I was pretty hard bitten about a lot of the things that were going on, and it does seem that prices again have been flexible on the day, although in fairness I've only been there for two guests today. I was there for Ron Perlman and for Justin Lee Collins, as always. I wanted James Cosmo, I think his name is, but unfortunately he cancelled almost as instantaneously as he was announced, it seems. So I wasn't able to get him. The queues and the organising today, believe it or not, I think the Wales team have taken a lot on board of what was said last year, and the merchandising has been removed completely from the main signature hall, which made things a hell of a lot easier this year. I don't think anyone could even try and call question into the organising for the signature hall this year. I thought it was absolutely superb. It almost seemed like there were lots of queues that were next to empty simply because of the space that they had. Michael Cudlitz, early on the Sunday afternoon, his queue was empty. I was stood having a discussion with one of the members from the Con Network for about 10-15 minutes, and there was no one queuing for poor Abraham, bless him. But I got through to Ron Perlman pretty quickly. It only took about 10 minutes of queuing, which I was very, very happy about, as Ron has been proven to be most elusive for me. It's taken me, nearly 3 years of trying to get Ron. Obviously with Walker Stalker being the only event that seemed to land him in the UK recently, and logistics and prices being what they are for Walker Stalker, just wasn't playing for me. Didn't go for it, but I finally managed to get him this year. So I think that's either 10 or 11 signatures now on my replica Sons of Anarchy vest, which, if you follow me on any social media or any of the Con Network forums, is becoming quite a well-known piece now with the amount of time I've been working on it. Logistically, I think the event this year much better. Absolutely brilliant. Security weren't anywhere as near obtrusive as they were last year. They seem to be taking in customer service. Medical facilities and police were very apparent. You could see first aiders and ambulances dotted around the place, first aid stalls, all those very visible, all excellent signs of a well thought out situation. The merchandise tent, I don't know whether it was just because it was Sunday and some of the organisers had already gone, or whether the vendors had already left, but the merchandise tent, because it had both sides of the hall, did seem a little empty toward one end of the rear of the hall. But I mean, obviously they've now got the entire tent to themselves, just for vendors and just for merchandise, so obviously they've got a lot more space to work with. A couple of new vendors I've seen this year. There was a family that have an autistic son who seems to be an extraordinarily talented artist, selling pencil drawings that he's done of popular network shows, Walking Dead and various other bits and pieces. This young chap seems like an extremely talented artist, so I'm going to be watching and keeping an eye out for some of his stuff a lot closer, so I'll be looking to buy some of that in the near future. But all in all, I think the event has improved untold times since the last couple of years. The only thing that I would question again is it does seem folk were talking about prices being raised on the day for guests. I have to say I didn't witness that, but then I was only there for two guests. It wasn't a big event for me. I successfully managed to get both the guests I was there for. I always try and have a chat and a photo with the JLC if possible, just because he's an absolutely cool guy. Got an awful lot of time for Justin Lee Collins. Always friendly, always happy to take pictures, always to talk to people whenever they come up. So that was always a positive. There didn't seem to be any ground-shakingly popular guests this year. It seemed like Kiefer Sutherland was the flagship guest, although with the layout of the Signature Hall this year, it seemed like his queue wasn't insane. Again, that could have been the case on the Saturday. I wasn't there for the Saturday, I've only went there for one day this year. But obviously can't praise Wales Comic Con enough this year. I think after last year's debacle and the organisation of the PhotoCon, the photo collection situations, everything else, I think they've taken on board an awful lot of what was said, and I don't think that anyone in any rational sense could even try and say that they haven't taken it on board and look to deal with the situations that have been caused. I thought the event was absolutely superb. Anything that I've directly seen this year has been pretty much 100% positive. I don't think I've got a single negative thing to say about the event this year. Obviously I wasn't there for that long. I was only in the event for 3 or 4 hours with other things to get and so forth. I had to shoot off fairly quickly. It's now coming up on about 3 o'clock I think or so. So I was there from the opening of doors through till now, so heading back up the M53 to the M56. But the event itself, can't praise it enough. I think after the news of the organiser being taken quite poorly last year, after a lot of what happened and what was being said, it seems like it's an absolutely triumphant return to form for the organisers, and I think they should be proud of themselves. I think for once they are entitled to some credit. And I think, you know, anyone that doesn't give them that and doesn't recognise the efforts that have clearly been made, well, they'll need to just examine exactly what it is they're looking for from these events, because this one, for me, has ticked all the boxes. I mean, obviously, there wasn't a lot of guests there for me this year, but that's subjective. Some guests, you know, you'll like, some guests you won't. I'm sure there'll be events coming up that I'll have much more of a spend to go to. But I was very, very happy to get Ron Perlman this year. He's been a very, very tricky target for me to get. Without the guys at WalesCon, I wouldn't have anywhere near the autographs that I do have on the main piece that I'm working on right now. I've obviously picked up other bits and pieces here and there, which I'm very happy to get. But no, I'm very pleased to be able to walk out from an event and say I haven't had any negatives for it. It doesn't happen very often. I try and pride myself on being as subjective and neutral as possible. If I see negatives, I will obviously say the negatives that I see, and I won't say them just for the sake of being nasty, because of personal dislikes or situations that I've been involved in. Events such as the Love of Sci-Fi event in Manchester a couple of years back, I've had a run-in or two with the organiser of that event because of the behaviour of one of the dealers there, a fellow called Rob Wiley, who is well known in the Comic-Con circles, and anyone who knows him, well, it's just as unfortunate for you as for everyone else. But no, it's very nice to walk out from an event saying, you know, there's a lot of the merchandise, very, very good value. The event itself seemed very, very good, very much space to walk around. On the Sunday this year, I can't say for the Saturday, but like one of my big gripes last year was the amount of people walking around with excessive prams and massive bags, big double, triple prams and everything else. Didn't see any of those this year. So I don't know whether there's been anything discussed for that. There may have been. It could just be because I went on the Sunday instead of the Saturday. But there was an awful lot more space to walk around. Hopefully long may it continue. So full credit to the volunteers and the staff at Wales Comic Con. The volunteers and the crew that I spoke to were pleasant, helpful and approachable without exception. Every single one of them really, really nice. Shame that James Cosmo cancelled almost as instantly as he was announced, but as we all know, these things happen. I believe Paul Amos and Andrew Scott also cancelled with relatively short notice, but as we all know, you know, if you're going to moan about that, you can't moan about that to the con organiser. That's not the organiser's fault. They've clearly put the money up and the facilities for guests to appear, and if guests have their own circumstances, well, that just can't be helped. That's not for the organiser to be blamed. But for me, excellent event. Obviously, I'd like to have seen more guests for me personally, but hey, you know, less guests for me there's more guests for others. You know, I may want to find some guests that other folk might not want. I mean, for example, I'm off to Nottingham next week. I'm off to MCon, and I'm planning on hitting up the Star Trek guests there. I believe Marina Sirtis, Brent Spiner, and Michael Dorn, I believe, are all there, along with a couple of others. I believe Jason David Frank's there, and Nick Frost as well. Nick Frost may be one to get. But signing off, very, very happy with this year's Wales Comic Con. I think if you're going to be discussing it on the forums and with anyone else, I think you could do a lot worse. Then give a few shout outs to the folks that have organised it and worked on it. They've clearly taken on board a lot of what went wrong last year or previous to that. And I think all those that are very, very quick to chastise and put down events, I'll be interested to see if they're as quick to recognise the fact that Wales Comic Con has done very, very well this year in addressing a lot of what the issues were. Because to me, it seems almost without question, the issues that I personally raised in my review have all been addressed. No, I wouldn't think for 1 second that one person's review is enough to do that. But I think the fact that there was a lot of vocal people very, very dissatisfied, hopefully has had a difference. And with any luck, it will go on this upward tangent, because the positive changes that have been made this year have made it a very, very good event. Much more spacious, much more pleasant to get around, much less stress. Wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, it wasn't raining on the Sunday for me. Obviously those that were there on the Saturday, I feel sorry for them if it was rain for them, but again, it's Wales, it's not Florida. And if you're not going to think to pack a brolly at an event that you know has changeable weather conditions, then really you need to be examining who's at fault there, because I don't think the organisers are the ones you need to be blaming for not being prepared. So this is the Dog signing off. Thank you very much to the cast and crew of Wales Comic Con. Thank you to Ron Perlman for showing up at last. It was a pleasure to finally get you. The JLC, honestly, I can't praise the JLC enough. If you're going to go to Wales Comic Con, drop by Justin's booth. He's an absolute pleasure to speak to. He's got wonderful, wonderful stories of his days on the Bring Back series. Ask him about the Gorn. Go down to his booth, ask him about Bring Back Star Trek, and ask him about the Gorn. You will not regret it. Alright guys, thank you again to Wales Comic Con. It's been a good event. I'll see you for my review next week for MCon 2019.